Welcome back to another video with VVS Clutch. Today we're going to turn this little cute lip kiss bag into what we like to call the Ruby Woo. To complete this look, we'll be using stones from Planet Rhinestone in the color Siam in the sizes SS16 and SS6. Using my normal technique, I start off with creating that border. I apply my stones to the perimeter of the bag, close and tight, trying to avoid creating any gaps. For an adhesive, we'll be using the E6000 glue. Later on, you'll see me using the Krystal Glaze glue when I need a more precise application. And of course, I'm still using the wax pickup tool from myroyalradiance.com. In applying my stones, I first apply a layer of glue, maybe about 2 to 3 inches in length at a time. I've gotten into the habit of kind of blowing on it for about 15 seconds to get it to dry a little bit, just so that the glue will get tacky, so that when I put my stones in place, they're not sliding all around and they seem to stick better. I've gotten a lot quicker at this process. However, this bag did take about 6 to 8 hours to complete, and that doesn't include drying time. In this portion of the video, you'll see that I've already completed my border. Here I am applying the glue, and honestly, I applied much too much glue. Best tip, be patient. Work in 2 to 3 inch strips or layers of glue, and don't over apply. Over applying just leads to the glue kind of rising up through the stones and creating residue that you don't want to see. The glue gets on top of the stone, and then once it dries, you'll find yourself picking that stuff off. You don't want to get yourself in that situation, so don't apply so much glue. I think that I was kind of getting tired and just working my way through it, so I just put as much glue as I felt comfortable doing. Eventually, working like this at this pace and applying that much glue, you'll dry out at the end. The glue will be dry at the end of it once you get to the end of your row, and you'll still have to reapply, so don't put too much glue. Take your time. I've had people ask, where do you get your novelty bags to start off with? Well, you can go online and search for novelty bags. You can search heart-shaped bags. You can search bags that look like lips. Shein has a nice different, they have a nice supply. Also Amazon. You can even find some on Etsy. Wherever you find a bag, you can get them really inexpensive. Sometimes they're below $10. Sometimes you're paying a bit more. It all just depends on where you're ordering the bag from. I've had people ask, how much do I charge for this bag once I've completed the entire project? Well, typically my bags run between $65 to $125. If the bag is not as time consuming, if it's a smaller bag, then it'll sell for less. I've seen similar bags done by bigger companies like Akira, like Betsy Johnson, and you'll see them for $100+. Very rarely do I see them for less unless you catch a sale or it's going on clearance. And not to toot my own horn, but what I like better about my bags as opposed to maybe a couple that I've seen on Akira is that my stones are smaller, and the smaller stones provide for more detail. If you load the bag up with bigger stones, big heavy stones, then you just don't get that detail, and I feel that it doesn't shine and bling as much. It doesn't catch the light as much. So I do prefer the smaller stone. The look of it is it's beautiful. I love how novelty bags are trending, especially in these styles. Some of the higher end pieces, such as pieces from Judith Lieber, can range thousands. Like I've seen some at $5,000 or so. Now, I'm not exactly sure, but I believe bags that are more high-end and more expensive, like the bags from Judith Lieber, I believe they're so expensive because she's using Swarovski crystals. For my research, these crystals are made of glass. They're cut in a particular way and polished to have a certain type of shine, and it has a chemical coating that helps to create the colors. So buying Swarovski crystals can be very expensive. Maybe if I had that kind of money to spend, I too would buy a Judith Lieber bag. But let's just be honest, it's not a real diamond. And if I'm going to have a bag that's made of glass, then I think I want to be, cost effective. The appearance of the rhinestones, especially by higher end rhinestone companies, I like the look of them. It still shines, it still gleams, they're beautiful. So I do like the look of my bags and other bags that are using rhinestones. And to be completely transparent with you guys, buying rhinestones can be pricey. For example, I have a 100-gram bag of Planet Rhinestone red rhinestones that costs $54. That's really expensive, and you're buying multiple to complete multiple projects. After a while, it's a lot of money. So when you factor in the cost of the stones, the cost of the adhesive, the time that you put into, you can really get up there. It gets up there. And you know, these bags that I'm not doing custom orders yet. I haven't had someone say, hey, I would like this bag to look this way, can you make this? Or, you know, I'm not there yet, but I do have people who are interested in the bags that I'm making because they've seen it elsewhere and they're like, oh, I'd like the look of that. And you know, they go maybe to Betsy Johnson and see her basketball bag or her lip kiss bag, and they're like, I like that, but you know, so it actually feels good to be compared to bags by Betsy Johnson. She's known for her quirky kitsch style, and I really like her work. So she is definitely an inspiration. Also Judith Lieber, definitely an inspiration. I would love to get to the point where I can be as detailed and as artistic in my creations. I would love to do that. And also just the YouTubers that I've seen. The young lady at Life is a Whole Vibe, she's one of them. I'm inspired by their work. So when I actually wanted my own bag, a little lipstick bag, I said, maybe I can try to do this myself. Now, I'll be honest with you. It took much longer than I anticipated. So for people, you know, I just want to be able to show and share with you that you can do this yourself. But also, it takes a lot of time. So if you're not about sitting here and painstakingly putting on each stone and perfecting it and making sure it looks, you know, how you want to look, then it might be a better idea to just order it from someone, to outsource the work. So I had the time, so I decided to make it. And I did like doing the crafts with my daughter, so I continued to make these bags, and I like how they came out. So I just figured, you know, I'll do my own line of them and see how it goes. But yeah, every bag that I've gotten, they're durable. I've had some my daughters wear them, and they're pretty cool. So here you see I finished actually one side. I finished the whole side of this bag, and I'm going to let this dry for maybe 24 hours, and I'll come back and do the other side. I always have to go back and inspect my work. So what I've seen is I have like little gaps. So those were the small stones, the SS6 size stones that I'm going to use to fill in the empty spaces. And I'm careful. I dropped the bag and I don't want to loosen any stones. So here I am working on the other side of the bag. I literally record at 30-minute increments. And for you guys, each 30 minutes, I'm speeding up 10 times as fast as I can get it to go using my software. And I don't know, eventually, with other bags, I've shortened the time of the video. I've edited a lot of it out. But with this one, I just really wanted you guys to see the detail and see the work that goes into it. So this video is probably, 15 minutes or so. Takes a long time to get through it, but I just want to make sure you guys got all the content you needed so you can see how I'm going about creating the bag. Here I'm maybe applying 2.5 to 3 inches of glue, and I'm working 3 layers at a time, or 3 rows at a time. I'm sorry, 3 rows of stone at a time. So here you see me applying the first row in that 3-inch area surface of adhesive, and then I'm on to the second row, and then you'll see me move on to the third row. And I'll go around the whole perimeter of the bag this way, and eventually I'll work my way through the middle. So you see that's the third row that's going on right there. Another thing to consider is your wax pickup tool. Now, if you look at the tip of my wax pickup tool, it's gotten pretty blunt. What I like to do on occasion is take up maybe a scissor or just some sharp edge and kind of sharpen the edge of that wax pencil to make the pickup easier. It's important to have a sharp point or tip, especially when you're using smaller stones. I zoomed in so you can get a close-up of me applying these stones. The other end of the pickup tool is like a metal pokey piece, and I use that to move the stones. Sometimes they get flipped over or just not in the right position. I have to use that to reposition them. Moving right along, I've completed the entire perimeter of the lipstick bag. I'm sorry, the lip bag, the Kiss, and I'm filling in the details or filling in the center portion. I work on it in different ways. I, start filling in that edge, and then I go back into my rows. I like working along in a row, but the shape of this bag I just wanted to fill in that you see the left corner. I want to kind of fill that in and then continue working in my rows around the bag. It just seemed to make better sense because I was finding that the stones weren't fitting in perfectly and when I did the other side. So here I am using this method because I want to cut back on the amount of small stones I'll have to go back in place just because things didn't fit perfectly like I wanted them to. And I'm not sure if you can tell or not, but each segment that I'm doing is taking me about 10 to 15 minutes. So a segment in this size that I've started doing takes me about 10 to 15 minutes to apply. And then you see me move on to the next segment here. And this maybe took me about 10 minutes to do the whole piece there. So if you break it apart, break it down, these 10-minute segments, they add up to a pretty decent amount of time. And like I said, this was about 6 to 8 hours, not including drying time, and not including any breaks in between. You do take breaks or get distracted in between there, but it's time consuming. It's time consuming, but it's a labor of love. I love doing these. And like I've said in other videos, these trays from Amazon, they make it look so easy and perfect online, but I mean, it does what it's supposed to do to a certain degree. But honestly, if you don't have the trays, you can dump those things out on paper and kind of flip them over and keep it pushing. You don't necessarily need those trays. It hasn't been like the most beneficial tool for me. It's helpful, but it's not as beneficial as you would think it would be. All right, so I've completed that bottom lip, and here you'll see me move on to like the partition or crevice where the both lips meet, and it's kind of at an odd angle, so it had a little bit more difficulty. I had a little bit more difficulty putting those stones in place there. So sometimes I have to use that layering technique that I've used in the past, where the stones kind of rest on each other. You have to put a nice amount of adhesive there, not too much where it's like spilling over the stone, but just enough where you have where you can place the stone and make sure it's adhesing to both the surface of the bag and to the other stone, and give it a good drying time so that you're not so that the stone doesn't fall off easily later on. All right, we are getting down to the final end of this. Later on in this, you'll see me kind of slow the video down so you can see like a more true pace, I guess, when I'm wrapping it up. This is always my favorite part, finishing the stones. And then I'll let it set. I'll let it cure. You call it curing when you let the glue completely dry. Because even though I place these stones and maybe after 15-20 minutes you think it's dry, you can still actually move those stones and peel them off real easily. So giving it that curing time for 24 hours or so is important. I let it air dry. I like to leave it in the duster after 24 hours just to make sure it doesn't get dusty. And to clean the bag off and refresh it for someone who might want to purchase it, I'll use a little Windex and kind of dust it, wipe it down, just so those jewels are shining really pretty for whoever purchases the bag. And you can see how pretty the light is shining off these stones. I love the look of the red stones. I think the red bags are just my favorite. Just something about those red glittery glitzy bags. Now we're wrapping up this bag. We're finishing the last bit. The final touches is turning the bag every which way to see if I'm having any missing pieces, using the smaller stones and to fill in the little empty spaces, using a picking tool or like some tweezers to peel off excess glue, and just double checking my work. Just double checking it. You see me trying to get those little stones. Using the tiny stones is like the hardest thing ever. So I'm looking for spaces that need a stone, and I'm putting that little tiny stone in there. Double checking. I want to make sure this looks really good for you guys. So just going over the entire surface, making sure I haven't missed a speck. Here's the inside of the bag. You can carry this bag as is or apply the chain and carry it. Just double checking it. Looks beautiful. Guys, I want to thank you for watching, for sticking with me this long. Once again, this is VVS Clutch Custom Bags, and I hope you love this video. Please like, subscribe. You can find these bags on the website and at Etsy and eBay.